Do you want to generate leads? Is free your favorite price? Then you need to check out iyba.pro. iyba.pro is your industry-owned platform for all listings and marketing. Create robust yacht sales and charter profiles, elegant marketing material, have access to all your exclusive data, and enjoy premium search engine optimization by signing up with us. For more information on how to join iyba.pro, call the IYBA headquarters or email me at casey@iyba.org.
Maritime arbitration has been around for hundreds of years. Now we have a new forum to solve our disputes. The IYBA has created the International Yacht Arbitration Council to solve our disagreements. We have experienced maritime attorneys and yacht brokers to serve on our panels, people who know the law, who know boats, and who know the yacht business. IYAC arbitration can handle yacht claims, contract, purchase, and commission disputes privately, quickly, and less costly than going to court. Sometimes disputes happen, and when they do, the IYAC is here to help you solve them.
Hi, I'm Bob Saxon. I'm president of EBA, the International Yacht Brokers Association. What is EBA? Our mission statement suggests our worthy objective to be promoting professionalism and ethics amongst our members. But EBA is more than that. The work and the energies of our board of directors and our support committees is directed toward bettering the business environment within our constituency by way of education, networking, webinars, seminars, political engagement, and many other activities for the greater benefit of our membership. Our reach is impressive, with a global membership of over 1,600 strong, marking EBA as the largest and most influential professional association of yacht brokers and affiliates. If not a current member, I encourage your participation. If already an active EBA member, learn how you can serve in a board support capacity by becoming a committee member. I asked earlier, what is EBA? And in the final analysis, EBA is you, EBA is your cause. And I know that you're going to enjoy this week's EBA Yacht Engineering Webinar Week.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to day 2 of Yacht Engineering Week from IYBA. Just want to tell everybody that we're happy to have you here this morning. We're live from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the IYBA studios. Those of you that were with us yesterday might have enjoyed a little bit of our technical difficulty. My guess is that the world has changed pretty significantly over the course of the last couple of months, and I have a feeling that all of us across industry are going to have this whole networking, webinar, online seminar thing dialed in right around November 4th when COVID-19 is over. So we're just going to keep trying to work through it. Thanks to the guys at JV Connectivity. They brought us a whole new Wi-Fi program this morning. Hopefully we've upped our speeds a lot, and you guys are getting a good signal from us. I want to thank the members of our committee who helped formulate the program for this week-long webinar. Bob Dennison, Trevor Carroll, and Jeff Stanley. Their hard work goes very much appreciated for helping develop the topics and discussion for this week. Our sponsors are the ones who make it possible for us to bring these events, even though we're not renting a hotel and a conference room and all the rest of it. There's no way we can bring these events to the membership without the support and help of our sponsors. This week, Robert Allen Law is our coffee sponsor. Thank you, Bob Allen and the team at Robert Allen. Oh, that's good too. Pantropic Caterpillar, MPI KVH, Northern Lights and Technicold, Seakeeper, Quantum Stabilizers, AME Solutions, who, by the way, has been a sponsor with this event since the day we started in 2015, I think it was. Karen Interiors, Apollo Lighting, Underwater Lights, and JV Connectivity, and LMC is our official timekeeper this week. So thanks to all the sponsors who make this possible for us to bring forward to the audience. Today's agenda, we're going to mix it up just a little bit today. We're going to do 3 segments. Our first segment is going to be a roundtable discussion with regard to sound and vibration. We're going to bring in a couple of experts that I'll introduce to you in just a moment. After that, we're going to go live in the field to Heather Lee O'Keefe. You met her yesterday. Heather has been our on-site host for this week. And then we're going to round out the day with a discussion on updates to electronics and what you need to know. We're going to start by heading right into our sound and vibration discussion. I'm going to invite, there he is. Dan Robsham is going to be our host for this segment. Dan, thanks for joining us this morning. We're going to have John Allen and Darrell Milburn come join us here in just a moment. And I'm going to TO it to Dan when these guys come live. Dan's going to lead our discussion on sound attenuation and vibration. Dan, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks. Great to be here.
I've got you 5 by 5 loud and clear there. And I'll look forward to seeing Darrell and John jump in here in just a minute. We've got a different tech setup this morning, and hopefully we'll have them coming up live. So Dan, tell us, where are you this morning?
I'm in Wellfleet, Massachusetts, out on Cape Cod.
Oh, okay. All right. A little cooler and more comfortable up there, I think, than probably Fort Lauderdale.
It certainly is. I'm just around the corner from Darrell.
Okay. Hey, Darrell, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm in Marblehead, Massachusetts today.
Well, it looks like Darrell's chosen to do the outside run. That's a good spot to be coming to us from. And John should be joining us any minute here. Dan, give us a little overview of what we're going to be talking about this morning's discussion.
Okay, in this morning's discussion, we've been asked to speak about noise and vibration, how it might be dealt with on smaller vessels in the under 30 meter market, under 100 feet, and some of the experiences that we as a team, that's Darrell, myself, and John, have had in both this market segment as well as the larger yacht segment. When we think about noise and vibration, ultimately, it's how it affects our customers. All of us are used to dealing with individuals who have very high expectations. They want a quiet vessel, a smooth running vessel or yacht, and they pay a lot of money for that. So to discuss it a little bit further, we should just think about what noise is. Noise is sound pressure, and for purposes of evaluation, it's described in decibels dBA, which is a logarithmic scale of sound pressure level or noise. So every 10 decibels increase is a doubling in the noise that one would sense. Humans hear in the range of 18 hertz or cycles per second to 20,000 hertz. Some other animals can hear, your dog might hear up to 50,000 hertz, and the dolphins may be 150,000 hertz. So wow. Humans have a relatively limited scale of hearing. For the fishermen amongst you, it's good to know that fish actually have a very limited hearing range, so you don't have to be super quiet for fish, but Darrell can speak more to that. For vibration can be pretty nettlesome, and of course we encounter that a lot on smaller vessels, and vibration is basically a displacement that is sensible to people, or a movement that's sensitive to people, and it's measured in terms of velocity in millimeters per second, or its frequency, as well as its acceleration, how fast it happens in millimeters per second squared. But not to get too technical, but that's a roundup of what the noise that we feel and sense really is. So in the broadest terms, the most effective way to deal with noise and vibration is to minimize it at the source. That is to use balanced machinery, robust and forgiving construction methods, designs that don't have large panels that act as drums, these type of things. Darrell has certainly spent a career in dealing with this and is truly, from our viewpoint as marine surveyors, is our go-to expert amongst others. There certainly are other firms that do vibration measurement and remediation, both in the United States and in Europe. And our experience as surveyors, working for owners that are concerned or brokers that are trying to make a situation as good as possible or to meet the customer's expectation, has certainly been very positive in working with each of these firms. I have never really had a bad experience with a vibration measurement firm. We had a little bit of a round table amongst ourselves yesterday, and John Allen brought out a very interesting viewpoint. As customer expectations for noise and vibration become more demanding, the shipbuilders and as first-tier suppliers have become very demanding of their equipment suppliers on all levels to produce arrangements and equipment that doesn't generate noise in the first instance. So this is one of the main principles of noise and vibration engineering or control, is minimize it at the source. Some other meaningful ways to deal with noise and vibration can be to isolate it from the structure, isolate the source of the noise from the structure. And we see this in arrangements like flexible hoses, resiliently mounted equipment, double resiliently mounted equipment, and large volumes and mass damping layers. So we see all of these things. The big difference.
What do you mean when you say resiliently mounted?
Darrell can speak to that.
Okay. Darrell's going to get us a live mic in a moment.
Sorry, I was myself quiet there. I would certainly agree with everything that Dan just said. Are we getting an echo with me speaking? Dan, are we having an echo or are we okay? Okay. So Dan gave a very nice description of some of these background things, these measurements, sound pressure measurement with decibels, vibration measurement with millimeters per second, vibration velocity, vibration acceleration. Last week I was on a sea trial down in New York Harbor, and the client there, this was on a commercial vessel, but they were trying to decide what sort of noise limit they wanted to set for the vessel. And this was a benchmark before the boat was going to go into a refit. So almost like a yacht broker going around with a potential client and trying to decide what sort of boat to buy. We did a little Goldilocks experiment. The decibels, they're a number. And I might think that number is very quiet, and you might think that number is still very loud, because it has to do with your perception of what the sound level or the vibration level is. So I found a place on the second deck of the ship that had one cabin that was 43 decibels, one cabin that was 47 decibels, and one cabin that was 54 decibels. And we went with the client and said, well, this one's really too quiet. I can hear the people speaking in the cabin next door to me. We went down to the end of the passageway, and it sounded like a loud air conditioner at a cheap hotel. And he said, well, this one's much too loud. So by a kind of Goldilocks process, we came to find sort of a way to relate how many decibels there were compared to the sound level that's registered on a sound meter. And I kind of learned a lot by that experiment, and I would sort of urge a broker to do the same kind of thing, to really get onto a lot of boats with your clients and see what it is that they like and what they don't like. And if there's a particular particular sound issue or vibration issue in the boat, then it's time to bring in experts like Dan and experts from the equipment suppliers to see what can be done to mitigate the complaint, to try to get it into the range that the client's happy with.
And Darrell, could you describe some of the materials used on smaller vessels, such as resilient mounts, button mounts, hoses, this type of thing that you would recommend to your clients?
Sure, a lot of this has to do, with the builder and what the builder's working on at the beginning of the project. Surprisingly, everyone thinks that it's the sound insulation that's the most important thing. But in our experience, many times when you're underway, most of the noise that you're hearing is noise that is coming through the structure of the yacht. And the beginning of it is really to make sure that your engines and your generators and your stabilizers and your chiller units are all on really good, strong foundations. Like a lot of things in life, without a strong foundation, you're not going to achieve the results that you desire. The resilient mount is then the thing that isolates the machine that's making the noise from the structure of the yacht. And examples of resilient mounts would be rubber mounts that are beneath your engines, or special bushings that might come underneath your generator. And the idea of those resilient mounts is really it's really to separate the vibrations that are the acoustic sound from the structure of the yacht. Otherwise, the yacht's almost working like a loudspeaker, with the machine being the driver, and the joiner panels in your cabin acting as the speaker cone. So you want to avoid that, like Dan was saying, by focusing on the sound at the source. So the first items that I would say are the most important are really the foundations for the machinery, and then secondly the resilient mounts and so forth. I keep going on this for a minute if we want, or we could.
I'd like to ask John a question.
Yes, good.
About time.
John, as a manufacturer of hydraulic equipment, what solutions have you had to minimize vibration-induced noise in the projects you work? I know you and I have worked on several. I'd like to hear your viewpoint. I think the example we had to deal with.
Yeah, well, that's correct. Well, if you contemplate a company like Quantum, we're kind of, back to the wall. We've got one arm tied behind our back, and we're trying to put wallpaper up half the time, because we know we have a product that's got potential for hydrodynamic noise, it's got potential for structure-borne noise, it's got potential for airborne noise. And it works its hardest when everything else is turned off on the boat and, the guests are sleeping. So you kind of, for us, noise and vibration is almost quintessential. It's second only to the performance of the zero-speed stabilizer, because if it performs but it's noisy, it really doesn't perform. And if it doesn't perform and it's not noisy, it still doesn't perform. So we have to have a system that's quiet and it performs. And it performs at a point in time when most of the machinery on the boat is not operating at full capacity. So it's very tricky for us. And to address that, and we find that, we're not just working in a couple of fields, as Darrell knows. We've done, we have hydrodynamic issues to deal with, so there's cavitation and things like that. We have mechanical noise, transfer mechanical noise, and that can be actual hard mechanical stuff from bearings into the ship structure. And then we have to deal with the hydraulic noise of the equipment. And that alone is a challenge. So identifying that stuff up front is super key, because it's really easy to fix things when the ship's being built, or if it's being retrofitted, and you go in and you look at the retrofit and you go, okay, we really need to move these things around or do this. But once it's all cemented in, it's a major task to fix it. So it's really important that for companies like Quantum anyway, to work with the noise and vibration people, as it happens for us, J&A, and get as much intel up front as we can to field out to the people we're working with, albeit the retrofit yard or the shipbuilder. And so, you know, we don't even, and I think Darrell just mentioned the structure-borne noise, and really I think that is the key, because the airborne noise is generally easy to eradicate, but once once it leaves the machine and it gets into the ship's structure, it just propagates the whole boat, and there's almost no stopping it. And I do recall, everyone likes to tell a story. I do recall a situation, which, by the way, wasn't our fault, so it was good. I like to talk about it. But it was a big boat, and Darrell knows the boat, and at a certain speed, there was a table, 4 decks up, like the owner's card table or something, some beautiful table that just started shaking, like, unbelievably. You couldn't even sit at the table. And it took a long time to ascertain the location that was, the machinery that was actually, causing that noise. And of course, eventually the shipyard did do it. And the fix was quite easy as well. But finding those things and tracking those, where those structure-borne noises propagate from, and how they can travel through the whole ship and then just find one little piece of machinery, or in this case a table, that suddenly became in resonance with that particular vibration, and then, the last payment doesn't come through very much, So it's really, I think it's a really key topic. And while we're talking about, boats, you say north of 60 meters, I think it really does apply to the smaller boats too. And the smaller boats are getting better and better, and they're putting more and more effort in, because there's such a difference between when you get on a boat and you go to sea, and the boat is sort of vibration free or noise free, and you can't quite put your finger on it, but you go, wow, this is a great boat. And then you get on somebody else's boat and it's kind of shaking, and you say, wow, that's not such a great boat. And it's all about the feel of it. And the noise and vibration is quintessential to the overall feel of a boat, albeit a 35-foot center console or a 90-meter, private yacht.
John, I'd like to talk briefly about 2 examples that we had to do. One was on a larger boat and one was on a smaller boat. Both of these have involved both of you gentlemen. On one vessel, we had hydraulic-induced noise that was being transmitted to the owner's staff cabins. And of course, as the owner's staff reports and is face-to-face with the owner, he himself every day, this reached a critical level very quickly. The noise itself might not have been critical, but the fact that one existed certainly did. This was ultimately traced to the frequency emitted by the pump into the hydraulic piping. That frequency actually matched the resonant frequency of the structure directly under the cabins affected. And I think the solution to that was to, from the Quantum side, we put some hydraulic silencers on board at the pumping units. And from the J&A side, we changed the resonant frequency of the structure by putting damping tiles on the structure in question, and that greatly reduced it. On a smaller boat, a 77-foot boat, we had an instance where we had a significant propeller-induced vibration. The well-known builder actually had pretty good ideas about how to deal with this, and they had propellers that were well designed with eight blades. And their lead engineers at the boat builder, we measured it on board the vessel and determined where it was coming from. And the lead engineers at the shipyard actually utilize an air injection system where they actually induce air into the propeller tunnel aft of the prop in order to mask the sound, like submarines might use for the masking of a submarine propeller noise underwater for the Defense Department. This retrofit we're quite used to when we think about noise control and vibration control. One of the things is propeller clearance between the hull to minimize the vibration induced in the hull itself by making a generous clearance. The rule of thumb that I learned when I started with Don Patton 20 odd years ago was 25% of the propeller diameter. Give it a good generous clearance, turn slow. This will keep things quiet. They actually reduced the clearance of the propeller to a matter of a quarter of an inch. And the idea of this was to actually change the characteristic of the propeller to a pump, like a pump impeller. And it reduced the vibration significantly. Darrell and I worked on that. So that was quite interesting solution for small boat. On that small boat, we also reduced the noise of the zero-speed stabilizers in the owner's cabin on a sport fish to virtually inaudible at rest. And this was a very good solution that was done with mass damping and some acoustic foam, attention to the isolation of the hydraulic piping as well. So it's quite possible for smaller boats. Some things are not going to be possible because of the physical structure of the boat. There's not space. There's not a weight allowance available for adding a lot of mass damping. And let's face it, a lot of people on a sport fish, it's speed to get to the fishing grounds, get back, and get more fish in for the terminate timeline. So people aren't interested in a lot of mass damping. And so it also has to do with client expectations.
I'd agree with that, Dan. It is, there's a price to pay, and if you want to reduce noise, whether it be big or small, you've got a weight, a volume, and you've got a financial impact, all of which are sort of quintessential to doing that, and there's no real way around it. I don't think there's really a silver bullet. If that generally, the rule of thumb, if it's heavier, it's going to be quieter, is a fairly decent rule of thumb. But the technology and the things that J&A can apply to isolate and find where these noises come from and focus specifically on those areas, albeit like the durometers of the rubber mount or something like that, or the subframe that the equipment sits on. They're specifically targeted in where you can not. It's not sort of throwing everything on the wall, but you identify the individual problem, then you go and attack it. But still, at the end of the day, there's implications, and weight, volume, and price is one of them. To do that. But it is worth it. And from what we see now, in the bigger segment, the shipyards put a lot more responsibility to the manufacturers to produce and deliver a quiet device. And in cases like us and other companies, we have to actually engage the services of people like Darrell in the beginning to test our equipment, to produce documents that show the shipyard what we're actually doing, so they're able to take that and integrate that into their ship design. So I think I'd say the biggest push forward for the last few years in big yacht construction is noise and vibration. The absolute direction is to reduce it to, sometimes the levels look almost unattainable, but I mean, that's the goal. And in the last 10 or 15 years, it's changed dramatically. I think Darrell can testify to that, right?
I would say that really what we see in the larger boats is exactly what John's speaking of, and it's also frankly what we see when we're doing projects on oceanographic research ships and on naval vessels, is this idea that to really limit the noise, you want to make it quiet at the source. So there are specifications, technical specifications for how loud the equipment can be and what sorts of vibrations the equipment can introduce to the hull. All of this is really pretty technical, I think, though, with what we've been speaking of here this morning. It honestly, though, it comes back to what are the preferences of the client, right? As Dan alluded to this trade-off, if you want to get out to get out to where you're fishing quickly for tournament type of fishing, then you'll put on your headphones and get there, because you don't want a single ounce of weight that isn't having to do with what you're trying to get done. And on the other hand, maybe you really want the boat to be very quiet while you're at anchor, and you don't want to be rolling back and forth. So we're working on a project right now. Some of these things happen in the design stage, and we're working with a designer right now on a yacht that's 65 feet. And it's very interesting because the owner of this yacht must be a tremendous audiophile. We've got a great amount of very high-end hi-fi equipment on board, and the owner wants to have it be a silent mode where everything's running off of battery while he's at anchor enjoying his equipment. So that's one example of an extreme of kind of tailoring the project to the owner's requirements. And if a broker recognizes what needs to be done and to meet the owner's needs early in the project, and can get the designer and the surveyor and the equipment supplier and the noise consultant all together as a team, I think you're looking for a good result.
Darrell, your thoughts bring to mind ultimately how the marine standards were developed related to noise and vibration. And the granddaddy of them all is the IMO code on noise levels on board ships, which, by the way, is applicable to commercial yachts. And this was preceded by a prior edition of the code, and yet another prior edition of the code starting in 1975. This talks in terms of complaints probable and complaints about the vibrations not probable, and then they set the range in between to do that. Following on with that, and it gets a little technical, so I'll go quickly. A very good basis for understanding noise and vibration on board ships is the IMO code, Resolution 337. Also, the International Association of Class Societies, Recommendation 132. These are easily found. You can email me, I'll send you the list. Easily found by a Google search and free to download in most instances. How to measure the vibration, more for technicians, is described in a series of the ISO standards. How to measure and report noise, vibration, and how to weight and evaluate that. Those standards are out there and often seen in large yacht building contracts. And finally, the class societies themselves for class vessels have come up with a series of what they call comfort class or passenger and crew accommodation comfort standards that are quite definitive, both on the intended final result as well as the methods to measure and evaluate those. Very well done from DNV, from American Bureau of Shipping publishes a guide, as well as Lloyd's Register, which has separate publications. Very, very good. I would recommend for somebody who's just interested in the topic, read the IX Recommendation 132. It really describes noise, vibration, air conditioning, climate control, lighting, and access. And it is a very interesting code. These are applied at new builds. They can refer back to some existing vessels, but as John indicates, it's kind of baked in the cake by then. So there you go. That's a bit of a roundup on the topic.
Well, I'll tell you something. I had no idea. We don't always think about the depth of the effect that some of these things have. And as Darrell and John both brought to our attention, vibration and sound are very fatiguing. And one of the things that John said is that, when you get on a certain boat, you don't know quite why, but that was a wonderful day on the water. And another boat is, it was a beautiful day out there, but for some reason I'm absolutely exhausted. Maybe it had something to do with the rum. But I do know for a fact that we have one man in our audience whose teeth have to be itching right now. That's Rich Marriage, and he's with AME Solutions. Rich is going to bring us a great segment tomorrow morning on machinery rotational vibration and how to balance and how to get rid of some of these vibrations that are not only exhausting, but they're also contributors to high maintenance considerations on the boats as well. Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for the insight that you've given us. It's really interesting to know, or even to bring to light, how the commercial aspect and the military aspect, those are the groups that they have economies of scale. They have the ability to do more research in these areas. They affect a wider number of people. And these technologies that are developed in those segments trickle down into the yachting sector. And the exploratory boats these days, the expedition boats, are something that I think you guys are seeing a lot of work with, because you're talking about really commercial platforms that are being adapted to a research and yacht standard. So, you know, you've got a guy who's a billionaire who wants to float around in something that's 450 feet long. It's got to be built to an industrial standard, but I want to be able to hear the Rolling Stones playing like they're playing in my salon. So there's an exacting set of standards that they demand. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your input. This was a really interesting segment. To the audience, you can always contact IYBA if you have further questions from Dan, from Darrell, or from John. John's at Quantum. Dan and Darrell are available as well. John, one of our great sponsors here for the event here. We're going to go to commercial break now. We're going to come back with Heather. She's out in the field with, who is she with today? She is with MPI and KVH. Gentlemen, thanks very much. We're going to go to commercial and we'll be right back.
Marine Professionals MPI has been in business since 1997. With over 20 years of experience, we at MPI provide you the very best in marine electronics, audio, video, and networking. We specialize in boats from 40 to 120 feet. If you need navigation, including Garmin, Ray Marine, or any other top brands, MPI is your go-to source. If you need audio video equipment, MPI can provide you with HD TV and the very best sound with a Sonos hi-fi sound system. MPI is the only Marine Gold Sonos dealer in the country. Nowadays, everybody wants high-speed internet. MPI can offer you different solutions that fit your needs. Whether it's to pick up the marina Wi-Fi, cellular, or satellite, MPI has you covered. We'll make sure you can binge watch your favorite Netflix episodes anywhere, anytime you want. You can check us out online at marineprofessionals.com or call us today. I'm Marc Curreri, and I approve this message.
2, 1. And good morning, Heather. Tell us where you are and tell us what's going on out in the real world today.
Yes, I'm here at Pier 66 Marina in beautiful sunny Fort Lauderdale. Today we're going to hop on this beautiful Ocean Alexander 100 footer that you see right behind me, and we're going to talk about communications on board.
Awesome. Well, why don't you give us a little bit of insight as to what we're going to be talking about in the segment today, Heather, as we go up to the boat.
Yes, so today is Internet for your boat. We're going to be discussing all sorts of things, how to stay connected, high connectivity wherever you are in the world.
Awesome. And who do you have with you today?
Today I have Marc Curreri with MPI and Steve Gorman of KVH Industries. And both of them together have decades of experience in the marine communications industry. So I'm really excited to talk to them and see what they're going to explain to us today.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm really looking forward to hearing what we have to learn.
Yes, and they are waiting for us right here on board. We're going to chat with them in just 1 second. Good morning, gentlemen. Hello.
Hey, Heather. How
Hey,
are
good morning.
ya?
Good. May I?
Welcome aboard.
Come
Thank
aboard.
you.
Yes. All right.
Well, hello everyone. We are here with Marc and Steve, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'm Marc from, well, first, I know we all need to be socially distant, but I'm okay taking these things off if you are.
Me too. What do you
All
guys
right,
say?
all right, we're gonna
let's
do
take
this.
off the masks.
It's taking off the mask.
There we
Although they're
go.
beautiful IYBA masks, but, you know.
Well, Mark, can I
take
take
off
my
my
mask
shoes.
off too?
You can take yours off too. Yeah, Paul, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, thank you, because I felt like I was filming Minority Report 2.0 there. So,
Yes, no problem. Yeah.
all right.
So I'm Marc with MPI, President of Marine Professionals. We have Steve Gorman here, who is Regional Sales Manager with KVH. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Internet of Things, being connected on your boat, different types of Internet, and the service, how to manage it, and cost, and all these different things. So anyway, so we're on board this beautiful 100-foot boat, thanks to Marine Max today, and we're just going to go upstairs and do a little tour. So let's go.
Mark, it sounds like there's some heavy construction going on in the background. So
Yeah.
let's go inside and see what we
can
got.
take a shot of that. There is some construction. They're finally getting rid of the shoal that has been outside of Pier 66 for about as long as I've been down here, 25 years. So hopefully that shoal will go away from now on. You know. So,
Awesome.
yeah. Sorry. I told them we were filming, but they didn't listen.
Nobody pays attention to us.
I know, right? It's like we're not important or something. I don't understand. So,
All right, Marc and Steve, let me know, what are we looking at up here?
Well, we kind of wanted to show you real quick the upper helm area of the boat. On the hard top and up on the arch is our communications equipment. Most of you are used to seeing the domes and stuff on the different vessels. KVH on here, we have the UHD7, which is high definition television tracking system, so you can get to all your TV and entertainment underway. And next to that, we have our new V7 HTS, high throughput satellite communication system. We also, Ocean Alexander likes to use a lot of our equipment. We have the LTE-1, which is an LTE cellular communication system on this vessel.
So yeah, so we can combine all those, well, the different satellite and the cellular, and give you guys, communication all over. So we're gonna move out of the sun maybe and kind of go downstairs just to get out of the heat here and get out of the noise. So
That's great, because I've got a couple of questions for you guys. The equipment that you're showing us there, we got a little bit of alphabet soup going with LTE and 5G and Wi-Fi, and I'd really like to get a little sense of what the differences are in a few of those. Mark, maybe you could explain that to us when we get inside.
So we'll do that. Let's go downstairs here real quick, get out of the noise, and then we'll touch upon all those different questions, because we really want you and the brokers to have conversation or questions for our panel discussion later on that's happening immediately afterwards. So yeah, it's great. Let's just go downstairs. We'll take a quick little short break here to get on down.
Real quick, while we're up here, One of the things I want to bring up is with the vessels now, everything is connected on the network. So things like your navigation equipment, your smart displays are going to connect to the network. So they're going to want connection for download of weather applications, updates to their maps, or just software updates to keep the systems up to date and have the latest capabilities. So all that is going to integrate with our communication systems on board. You're going to see a lot more of that. Most vessels come with it, and a lot of them are upgrading to this system. So let's go check it out down below, and we'll talk a little bit more about the equipment.
That's great.
That sounds great. Thanks.
Oh, thank
After
you.
you, of course.
I thought gentlemen go first, downstairs.
Not in our world. I mean, ladies always go first.
I thought downstairs
Come
on a boat, the guys go first. Is that wrong, or is it up? Is it up or down?
I don't know.
I heard that guys go first downstairs in case the lady
Okay.
falls.
Well, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
The
Take these
AC
sunglasses
feels
off.
good. Yeah.
It
A little bit nicer
Mid-July
inside.
in South Florida, very humid
Right.
out there.
So we're sitting here, well, in the salon of this 100 OA. We're going to touch upon your question here. So we got this boat here has a lot of boats have AV racks, audiovisual racks, and things, a place to keep their communication. It's usually in a place called the doghouse, which is not where the guys go when they're in trouble, but it's where all the equipment is on a yacht. So if you've heard that term, that's usually where it is. So this is some audiovisual stuff, and then we got some of our communication equipment here as well. So you're seeing the satellite and the VSAT equipment there, the cellular switch over. So you know, as you can see, it's really easy to switch over between a VSAT and you know, and a cellular or even Wi-Fi if you're picking up the marina Wi-Fi or something like that. So we can do it as simple as like just an A/B switch, or there's some electronic switchovers, and it's really easy to manage. You know, I mean, you don't need like a PhD to manage those things. It's really just a captain or even an owner can do it. I mean, anyone can flip a switch. You know, even my 6-year-old could probably do that. You know, so.
Well, that
No,
brings
Mark,
up an interesting question, Mark. So
Sure.
we're talking about
Yeah.
we're talking about cellular, we're talking about Wi-Fi, we're talking about VSAT, and while many people are somewhat familiar with what all that is, I think what we need to figure out for starters is where do I need what system? So if I want to be connected, as we all seem to want to be connected in this day and age, despite the fact that the boat is a place we like to disconnect, we want it to be at our option. Could you give us a little sense as to what do we use when we're cruising the intercoastal versus what do we use when we're transiting to the Bahamas?
Right, so yeah, there's our different types of internet. So you got the marina Wi-Fi, picking up marina Wi-Fi internet, cellular, you know, which is the LT1 that we have on this boat, and then a VSAT, which is like a high-speed type of internet. Now, we get a lot of customers, they want Wi-Fi on board, they want to be connected. It's yes, they go to a place to disconnect, but they also need to have like a meeting or like a Zoom meeting or something. You know, business is still evolving, and so they need a way to do that. So, you know, a lot of people think they can just like use their cell phone or something. Oh yeah, I'm just going to use my cell phone, it'd be great. Well, you got to remember that, you know, the cell phones use land-based antennas. So if you're out at sea, you're really not going to have coverage offshore. If we can put a cellular device on the hardtop, like we do here with the KVH LT1, with powered antennas and things, you're going to get coverage offshore, maybe 10 to 15 miles, maybe?
Yeah, some places up to 20 miles, depending on the towers and the abilities. Obviously, in a city like Fort Lauderdale, Miami, the range will be much greater. So as you cruise up the coast, up the East Coast, there's going to be different areas of different range. So LTE is a great option the minute you pull away from the dock. Yes, most people's portable cell phone that they have on them will get reception up to a certain extent. But by having a amplified antenna on top of the boat, you're going to get much greater coverage. So as you leave the dock, the Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi on shore leaves the vessel. So you can't stay connected. So at that point, you're going to go to either LTE or VSAT or some type of satellite communications.
You
So I
guys
want to back
mentioned
up for a quick
VSAT.
second and ask you guys.
Paul, this is my job. I need to ask a question.
I'm sorry, Heather. Go ahead.
You
You gotta let Heather talk. I mean, come on, Paul. You know what I mean? So
You've been mentioning the term VSAT for me and maybe some of our viewers who don't know what that means. Could you kind of explain what VSAT is, what that means?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so VSAT actually stands for Very Small Aperture Terminal. Originally, when VSAT was first coming out, that meant anything under 3.8 meter of a dish. Obviously, today we can do it in a much smaller terminal. So we have antenna systems on the market anywhere from 37 centimeters on up to 1 meter, and you'll see much larger on different vessels. So the different size antenna gives you different range capabilities and speed and bandwidth capabilities. So when we talk about VSAT, it's talking about that terminal that allows you to communicate with a geostationary satellite that's out there orbiting the Earth, following the orbit of the Earth. So we have to track that, and that's what comes into play with our antenna systems. These antenna systems, most are 3-axis systems that have to be able to keep a direct line of sight on that satellite at all times to give that communication abilities. So now, when you pull away from the dock, that system's constantly tracking on that satellite. As long as there's no interference, you're going to get a great connection. So that's when we're talking about VSAT, and that's a great question. What that does is allow you to go a little bit further, obviously, than what your cellular, because obviously, like we said, cellular is going to give you, or LTE is going to give you that ability to go offshore maybe 15, 20 miles. Now you're heading to the islands or to the Caribbean. You're going to need something that gives you communications all the time, 24/7. And that's where VSAT is probably the best choice for that type of application. It gives you both voice capabilities. Most VSATs will have at least 1 or 2 phone line capabilities. And then on top of that, the data capabilities. So you can do those Zoom meetings when you're sitting offshore, out in the Caribbean. Or just, checking the weather, checking your mail, being able to send social media pictures back to your family and friends as you enjoy the beautiful yacht in the Caribbean Sea.
Right. So, and years ago, people heard the term VSAT or satellite internet, and it was like, oh my God, it's way too expensive, for the cost of the equipment, and it's way too expensive, like just monthly. Well, things have changed like drastically over the years, So, the speed was also pretty slow, even with the bigger antennas. So now with the HTS, line that KVH has, you can get really high speed internet. I mean, I call it high speed, 10 by 3? So explain what that means, and then the V3 versus...
So back when VSAT came out, it was similar to the old days when you heard the connection. It was very slow speed. We were talking kilobits of data. And mainly it was just sending basic email, no pictures, no frills. Now people are so used to, when you're at home, you might get 100 megabytes or more of data in your home. Well, when we talk about high speed on boats, most vessels are going to do between anywhere from 3 megabytes down on 10 or 20, and even in some systems 50 megabytes down. So KVH offers different size antenna systems which have different capabilities. So our smallest system can do upwards of 5 megs down and up to 2 megs up. So that's the data speed, or how much data you can put across that network. And we go all the way up to, with our V11, of 20 megs down by 3 megs up. So that's where we get into talking about bandwidth and speed capabilities. Okay.
So, and for a lot of you people, like that's really enough to do, you could stream audio with that, but it's enough to do like a Zoom meeting if
Correct.
You really needed to do that. So people might not get an understanding of what is like 3 megabits down or 10 megabits down, but it's fast enough for that. You know what I mean? You're not streaming Netflix in high definition, but you're doing like a Zoom meeting that you need to get done, and people they don't know where you are. You can be anywhere in the world, really. So, really to circle back to your question, Paul, is really, we understand what, we have a conversation as a dealer, we have a conversation with the owner and where the boat's going to be traveling, what they want to do, and get it, how they want to use the boat. And then we can fit like what type of satellite what type of communication they need, or internet communication they need, So, sometimes we do all 3. In fact, a lot of our boats, especially of this size, have 3 different types of communication. It's picking up the marina Wi-Fi, it's cellular, and it's satellite, So, and having all 3, that gives you all the flexibility to be anywhere. So.
Could you guys give us a little insight? Today everybody's talking about 5G, and the new network is 5G, and it's supposed to be the secret sauce for communication in the cellular world. What's the difference between the LTE that you've been talking about and 5G?
So the LTE, correct me, it's 4G right now.
Right.
So it's 4G. 5G is rolling out. It's not everywhere yet. Does the LTE do 5G?
Yeah, well, we're still talking about the same thing. It's a service. So when we talk about LTE, we're talking about different versions of it: 3G, 4G, 5G. 5G is going to be the latest and greatest. One of the things, the higher the frequency goes, the thing that you have to remember is you need more antennas, more towers to spread that, because the distance is much shorter. The higher the frequency, the less distance you get. So when we talk about 5G, yes, it's going to be very fast and very usable when you're close to these towers. But as you move away, that's when you have to consider that. So once 5G starts to roll out, it's going to require a lot more towers or antennas placed along the coast to allow that signal. Now, how far you're going to be able to go offshore, that's all going to depend on those antennas that you're going to put up to get that range ability. So with all the companies, we're all looking at the technology and how we can incorporate that into our systems to keep the connection on board your vessel.
Yeah, so 5G would probably be good. Will be good like if you're in the marina and things like that. If you're sitting at Chelsea Piers or somewhere in New York City, you might be able to get that 5G network if it's available. But as you start to go offshore, you're going to lose the 5G, and that's where you would pick up the satellite communication.
Correct.
So gentlemen, we mentioned 5G in the future and where things are going, but let's talk, if someone had a VSAT that you mentioned on their boat 10 years ago, how does that differ from what we see today?
That's a great question. So there's a lot of things have changed. Obviously, the capabilities, the speed, the bandwidth has changed. There's a lot more players on the market as far as the satellites out there. The technology, like we all know, is changing every day. So the capabilities are the big thing, and also the data packages that are allowed. So we're able to be much more flexible. So a lot of people are used to those scary bills. When they get that monthly bill, it was not what they expected because they didn't realize how much data they actually use. And in today's age, everybody's living on the internet. So you're going to use more data. So with our new systems, we're able to offer higher packages in that more data for less money. And we even do things like what we have what we call our elite plan, where you pay a weekly or a monthly fee, and it's a flat rate fee. So you can stream with that plan. You can stream video, movie, music. Everybody can use it for their social media, and you're going to pay that one flat rate for the week or for the month. And we're very flexible on how that works as far as you set the days. You say, I want to use it from the 7th to the 14th. That's what we're going to set it up for, and you're going to pay for that at a flat rate. So those scary bills, opening up that bill at the end of the month and finding a $30,000 bill isn't happening in today's age. And one of the other things that we've done is we've put a lot more tools to the customer, to the captain, that allow them to see their usage, to see the type of usage, and to be able to control that. We have data management tools that they can actually go in and set what type of data they want to allow. Maybe they don't want the crew to be streaming on board, so they can block those applications or restrict those applications, which allows them to control their data. So a lot of these tools that are being built in now are much easier to use. It's through, in most cases, we use an app on your phone, or we have what we call a web GUI that they can log into and make those changes and control and actually see their usage, so they can better understand where the data is being used, how it's being used. And the capabilities are so much better. The voice quality, in the old days, there was a lot of delay. So when you talk to somebody on the phone, you had to communicate and wait for them to respond. Now it's just like you're talking on your cell phone every day. So there's a lot has changed from what you probably remember 10 years ago to today with technology.
So so it's a big difference. You got, it's gotten a lot faster. It's gotten a lot easier to use, right? And you can manage it a lot better. And so it's flexible. You can have different flexibility for the plans, So and it's really easy to manage. I mean, none of those big bills anymore. Another big thing, like in a boat like this, if the boat's going to charter, KVH has, if it has KVH equipment on board, they can say, okay, well, we're just going to turn on the high speed for this week if that charter guest wants that. So that's really important to have the equipment to do that, on the boat, especially if it's going to be chartering, if the boat is just being purchased for charter. So, you can just turn it on and turn it off, basically, right?
Right.
So
yeah, that's a good thing to bring up when the brokers are talking to these customers, the clients, they have to determine, is this going to be a private use vessel? Are they going to charter the vessel? Because nowadays it's pretty much expected. If you're chartering a vessel, they want the entertainment, they want the satellite TV, they want to know that they have internet, they want to be able to share social media. So a lot of those discussions need to take place as you're selling and brokering the boat, is what do they plan on using the vessel for? And maybe the customer himself doesn't have the data needs. Maybe he likes to enjoy his time away and doesn't need that. But if they're going to charter the vessel, the charter guests expect that. So most vessels now are going to want those capabilities, whether it's Wi-Fi while they're in the marina, cellular as they're cruising the intercoastal, or going offshore, they're going to want that VSAT capability, so they've always got that communications 24/7. And that's what we can kind of offer, and working with our dealers like MPI, we can customize a package for each vessel. And that needs to be discussed with the broker, with the customer, and the crew at that time, because the crew are going to have a lot of say in how that's done.
Now, Steve, I hate to cut you off, but we're running out of time here, and I know you have to run to get to our next segment to talk on the panel. So if you want to,
I'm going to get my office so I can get online and we can answer some more questions. We'll see you soon.
Sounds great. Now, Mark, I do have a few more questions
for
you.
Sure.
So
all right, yeah, no problem.
What are some things that people should consider when looking into this kind of communication system to put on their boat?
Well, like I said, we want to have a conversation with the captain, the owner. Are they going to charter? Just like kind of Steve was saying, it's just we want to know where they're going to travel. If they're an inland boat, if it's a smaller boat that's, whatever, 40, 50 feet, and they're just going to go inland, then maybe they don't need the satellite communication. But if they're going to be traveling offshore, or they got, a trawler and they're just going to go and, be offshore for an extended period of time, they definitely need satellite communication. So we'll pick the right type of communication and the right plans, and we work with KVH to figure out the right plan, so that kind of fit within the owner's budget and things like that. So
okay,
yeah.
That sounds great. Now, it sounds really overwhelming, but you explain it in a way that makes it seem very easy. You do all the hard work and leave all the hard work to you guys. So what is that, maybe a misconception that owners and people have about this kind of thing?
Yeah, it's actually really easy now. I mean, it's very simple. I mean, like I said, you can switch over between the different sources of internet, and that's the thing. Like, people say, oh, my house has internet. Well, yeah, your house has one form of internet. On a yacht, we try and bring in like different sources of internet. So, but switching over is very, very simple. I mean, literally just like a knob, we can switch it over. Anyone can do that. And, you can manage your, your data uses and things like that. I mean, MPI specifically deals, with a lot of boats from, say, 40 to 120 feet. Our sweet spot is like maybe in the 80-ish range, but a lot of those owners run the boats themselves. So, they need to know how to operate that stuff. So, when you're selling the boat, as a broker, you can let them know, well, look, I mean, we can get you with the team that will set you guys up for the right internet service that, to have on board. So, and we make sure the boat has right Wi-Fi. That's another big thing. I mean, it's just you put the antennas, but the boat actually has to have the Wi-Fi coverage in the yacht. Well, we make sure that happens too. So it's pretty simple. I mean, we have a team of people just at our office, but that work with the owner to answer all the questions they need. So, yeah.
That sounds great. I know we're wrapping up our segment here. Paul, do you have any more questions?
I actually do have one more question, Mark. Connectivity, as we're talking about, is so critically important today. And people are basically they're self-quarantine or they're social distancing on their boats, but business goes on. And if I'm a corporate owner or a business owner and I want to have a Zoom meeting from my boat, does the system automatically detect whether I should be using cellular or whether I should use VSAT or if I should use the marina Wi-Fi, or is that something that I need to know?
So, on the larger yachts, you can get into that stuff, with least cost routing and load management and stuff like that. But, you really would need somebody to kind of manage that for you. I mean, really, in this particular case, if excuse me, You know, Heather. So I mean, we just have literally just an A/B switch here. I mean, and that's, you know, or an ABC switch if you have 3 different sources of internet. So you're gonna pick, I want to be on cellular when I do this, or I need to be on satellite because I'm, you know, at anchor, you know, in the Exumas somewhere. So you're gonna pick, you know, the owner will really pick the internet source that they want, you know, for that Zoom meeting. But the capabilities are there now. You know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, those capabilities weren't there. I mean, granted, we weren't doing a lot of video chats, but you know, those capabilities are there now. So people can do that. They can run their business or just do a meeting from their yacht, and no one knows where they're at. So.
Well, that's incredible. And the new packages that they offer with connectivity and flat rates, you know, no longer does it cost $736 for your grandson to watch an episode of Finding Nemo. So that's a big help.
Yeah, right.
Those were the surprises that we got.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, you can do
Those
it. I
were
mean,
the
streaming
surprises
people.
we got.
There's actually people just streaming their TV now, you know, through cellular, you know, and there's all different options that we can help, you know, talk people through, without a doubt. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, thanks so much. Heather?
I have one more question, actually.
Sure,
so
yeah.
for our viewers watching that maybe
Yeah.
say, hey, this is something I want on my boat, what does the installation process consist of, and how does that work? How do they start?
So, I mean, look, we'll meet on the boat. We'll look at, you know, what kind of space they have on their hardtop or where we're going to mount the antennas. We're going to give them a very, you know, the installation is, for us, it's unobtrusive. You know what I mean? Someone might see like they're running wires and things like that. But, you know, it's a pretty simple installation, all things considered for us. And it's something that like we're doing every day. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, the guys that are building the house or whatever, it's like we do that every single day. So we make sure that it's no problem whatsoever. So it's pretty simple. We can get a satellite, we can get a whole satellite or, you know, internet system installed in less than a week, you know, a few days. So.
Wow,
yeah.
That's great. So now if someone wants this, where should they start? Who do they contact?
Well, I mean, you can contact us at MPI, Marine Professionals. You know, we'll set you up with one of our service advisors, you know, and we can walk you through the different options that you have for internet and things like that. Happy to do that, without a doubt. So I'm sure we can get connected through the IYBA, and all of our information will be on there. So, yeah.
Okay, sounds great. Well, here I am in Fort Lauderdale, Pier 66 with Marc Curreri. We had a great day on this beautiful boat discussing all things internet and staying connected while you're at sea or really anywhere in the world.
That's right.
So wrapping up here, Heather Lee O'Keefe, sending it back to you, Paul.
So I'd like to just say one more thing. You know, I'd
ahead.
like to, I just want to thank, you know, Marine Max and Bruce Seiler for letting us be on board today, and Justin Abernathy, you know, with Ocean Alexander. So they let us come on board and show all this great equipment that we had. So yeah, we thank you very much. So anyways, yeah, thank you very much. If you need us, we're here to help. And yeah, thank you very much. So we're going to have our Danny Murphy, our key accounts manager, is going to be on the panel here following up. So hopefully you guys have a lot of great questions that you can ask. He's very knowledgeable. He does all of our new build projects and refit projects. So, you know, answer any questions you may have. So thanks a lot, Paul. Appreciate you having us.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark and Heather, thanks so much, and thanks to the folks at Marine Max and Ocean Alexander. One of the wonderful things about IYBA membership is everybody seems to want to cooperate with one another. If you can pitch in and help, they're happy to do so. We're going to take it back to the studio. Thanks very much, guys. Glad for the report, and try to stay out of the way of that crane out there, if you don't mind.
I know. All right, we'll see you later,
All right,
Paul.
thanks,
Take
Paul.
care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Bob Allen, and I work with a law firm known as Robert Allen Law. We're a law firm dedicated to serving the needs of people in the yacht industry. That means manufacturers, that means brokers, that means buyers, that means sellers, that means banks, that means people who sell all sorts of things and services to the yacht industry. We're a team of lawyers that has experience in virtually all the fields surrounding this business. And if you're in the business, you know how important it is to work with lawyers who know yachts, right? And know the type of problems that arise and know how to solve them. Our job as lawyers is to help deals get done. Thanks for the opportunity. to be of service to the industry, and we look forward to hearing from you if the need arises.
Seakeeper has changed the resale values of our boats by the fact that if there's one in it, it definitely sells faster than one without it.
A boat today, the same model without Seakeeper, it's extremely penalized on the used boat market.
This is Nautical, yeah. J Cameron. We'll be on. Let's see.
All right, everybody, we're back here in the studio after a couple of words from our sponsors. We're going to bring in our, our electronics panel discussion. We're going to talk a little bit more about connectivity with satellite expert Steve Gorman from KVH. We're going to have Danny Murphy from MPI, and founder of Gost, Brian Kane, is going to join us as well. Gost brings us a different technology than the connectivity with communication, is more of a surveillance and security type of connectivity. So as we bring those guys in, there'll be plenty of time for folks to ask questions. I see Tim Hovings dropping one in about connectivity and reception up in Alaska. We'll wait for the experts to join us here on the panel, but I would encourage the audience to please use your chat box, ask questions of these experts. They're charging you nothing for it. And you've got the pros on the line here. So we'll get Steve and Danny and Brian in here with us just a moment. Our technical difficulties, I believe, have been eradicated for today. So we're going to see if that's actually the case. We had some good questions a little earlier. Christian Strauss asked about switching, and there's Steve.
I made it.
Steve, you made it back to the office. Awesome. Thank you. It's hot out there today.
Yes, it is.
Summer, Fort Lauderdale. That's our 2 seasons in Florida, hot and hotter. So, Steve, that was an informative segment. Hey, Danny, thanks for joining us. How you doing this morning? And we'll look for Brian to jump in with us as well. Danny, can you hear us okay? Danny cannot hear us okay. All right. How about now, Danny? Can you hear us? All right. We'll get the technical staff to reach out to Danny and make sure that he's got his speakers turned up. So, Steve, that was an informative segment. We had a lot of different information about connectivity. I'm going to let you kick off the discussion here while we bring the other guys up online. So you were talking about different packages and different ways for people to connect. One of the questions that we have in our chat room right there was from one of our members asking about connectivity in Alaska. Is there any place you guys don't have connectivity?
Yeah, so the closer you go to the poles, as you go, to the North Pole or South Pole, the VSAT type communications does cut out. And we have optional L-band communications that we use to cover those areas. Our 1 meter antenna that we use, the V11, does have some capabilities to go farther north or to the poles because it's a dual band system. So yes, we do offer different applications the further north you go. Some of our equipment, like I said, the V11 can go well up into Alaska and different areas there.
So how far is the furthest north? What latitude will we be talking about? 75 degrees north, 80 degrees north? How far north or south can you go?
I would say on the V11, I'd have to look at our maps, but I would say about 75 degrees north. Then you start to switch into L-band type applications, things like that, different frequency, different satellite system that we offer as an optional system for those areas.
So a good rule of thumb is when you run out of the need for air conditioning, you also run out of satellite coverage as well.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
All right. Well, Danny has joined us from MPI. Danny, thanks for joining us this morning. Happy morning.
Hey, good to see you.
Nice to see you. So as Mark was mentioning a few minutes ago, what you guys at MPI can do is offer a variety of different solutions to a client with regard to connectivity issues on board the boat. Give us a little sense, Danny, if you would, what are some of the considerations that an owner would need to consider when they're talking to you? If a guy's got a sailboat versus a powerboat, a small cruiser versus a large yacht, what are the different kind of hot buttons or buckets that you wind up having to fill each time?
Okay, so we spend a lot of time with the customer getting to know their needs and what their use is going to be. The biggest thing is really location and where they're going to want to be connected. If they're offshore most of the time, then we look at satellite, but if they're just cruising the coast, usually cellular is the solution. We get to know, what they might be using it for as far as streaming or just answering emails, sitting at a dock and connecting to the marina. Our three sources usually are what people think of as a Wi-Fi booster, cellular, or VSAT. And then, as you said, a type of boat, sailboat, we may consider a smaller dome. If it's up on the mast, just stay out of the way if they only want to do, emails or text. And then we go from there. Then we decide on location and how much equipment we can actually fit below decks. Plays in a role sometimes on smaller boats. And then we go over cost. And that sometimes makes a decision as well. So.
Well, Danny, that even brings in some of the discussion that we had in our first segment this morning with regard to the size of the equipment and some of the other different considerations with different pieces of equipment. You may want to accomplish a certain task, but the boat that you have doesn't have the ability to accommodate that kind of equipment. So it's very much a balancing act depending upon the type of boat, the type of connectivity, where you're going to be using the boat. So it's always a what's going to fit, and every solution tends to be a custom solution, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about Wi-Fi here briefly, not to take away from Steve and the satellites, but with the Wi-Fi, what sort of range do we talk about with Wi-Fi? Is it just in the marina? Is it anything that you can pick up as you're cruising around, or does it automatically switch over to a cellular when you run out of Wi-Fi range? How would a system like that work?
Well, if the boat has internet on the boat, they have some type of router or access point that's giving Wi-Fi on the boat. But then for it to have internet, you have to have a Wi-Fi booster antenna and you log on, you connect that antenna to the marina where you are, or outside the hotel or outside your house, wherever you're located. So now you're connected to their internet through your Wi-Fi, and that will continue until you pull away from the dock. Years ago, you could anchor off the beach and connect to beach place in here in Fort Lauderdale or anywhere else, the marinas, outside the marinas, and get internet. But nowadays, it's all directional. So the marina makes sure it stays in the marina and you can't get it outside. So nobody's, let's say, stealing Wi-Fi from the marina. So as soon as you pull away from the dock, if you continue to want to have internet, you would need to switch to cellular. That would be a second source. And then as you cruise up and down the coast, your cellular antenna is going to jump from tower to tower, depending on where you are. And then that'll work until you get offshore, 15 miles, depending on location.
So just like your phone in the car, same kind of a thing, or your phone or laptop or whatever when you go to a hotel. So the marinas now incorporate a little bit more, would they call it geofencing when they're talking about limiting the direction and capability?
I don't think that's the right term. I just, Steve might know too. They kind of just have, they have their border of where they offer the Wi-Fi, and it doesn't go past there, really.
But they can make it directional.
Right.
Okay. We have an audience member who's asked a question. Steve, I'm going to ask this one to you. Would you know how or if the Starlink sat network would be of a benefit to the boating world? Now, what is Starlink? Is that something that's a competitor to KVH's products? Or is it
I'm not familiar with Starlink specifically. There's a lot of you're hearing about a lot of new applications where they're using low Earth orbit type satellites. You have people like Elon Musk and Microsoft and Google. All of them are looking and investing in these new what they hope to be a very low cost to allow internet all over the world in very remote places. The problem that we run into with a marine application to that is those particular low Earth orbit systems require a lot of different satellites, and they're, instead of where we use geostationary, but where we track a very specific satellite, the low Earth orbit ones are constantly moving across the sky, and to properly use them, the way it's designed now in that network is you have to be able to track multiple satellites, because they literally are going across the sky within sometimes minutes to seconds. So you're tracking one satellite and have to immediately switch to another. So we are working with a lot of these new networks out there, these new low Earth orbit, and looking at how we can integrate with them. But on a vessel, it's going to be very difficult because of the fact that the vessel's moving. So it's bouncing around, it's pitch and roll. So when we're tracking a satellite, that dome is moving very fast, tracking a single satellite. With these new networks that are coming out, they require multiple satellites. So it's the technology and what we're going to have to do and how we're going to be able to track those. It may require multiple antennas or very special design flat panel antennas. But again, we have to take into effect the vessel moving, pitch, roll, and all that. So we're looking into it. We're working with some of these companies, and it is an option in the future.
Well, that's interesting. So we got really an ever-changing landscape in this regard because, like you said, some of them are geostationary and some of them are orbiting. So what satellite that you need to be able to pick up, dependent upon what service it is that you're looking for, may be, like we said, a geostationary, or it may be moving. So there's a lot of different, lot of pieces, moving pieces in play, if you will. Besides the fact that the boat is moving itself, so that adds a level of complexity that you wouldn't have if you had a satellite dish on your house, for example.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Well, Brian has joined us from Gost. Brian's one of the co-founders of Gost, and many people in the audience will recognize that name as being one of the leaders in surveillance and monitoring. Primarily, Brian, isn't that the focus of what Gost does mostly?
It is, yeah. Thank you for having me again, Paul, today.
Well, thanks for being here. Long time no see.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we've been doing the security monitoring, tracking, video surveillance system for about 15 years now, various generations of products. We've seen a lot of change in the industry, and especially within the last, since the pandemic started, an amazing amount of new business coming in of people that are all of a sudden, worried about their security systems on board and want complete situational awareness of who, what, when, where, why is on their boat.
So tell me, Brian, a little bit about what you guys do. When you say surveillance, you also do monitoring as well for the person who maybe isn't on his boat. Is that correct?
Yeah, the standard things that most people are worried about, we do, wireless security and monitoring systems. So we're going to have multiple bilge compartments protected with an independent wireless bilge sensor, battery low voltage sensors, AC power loss, DC power loss, smoke, all the usual stuff that people are worried about outside of the security realm. But we really, our core focus is security and defending the boat, whether clients are aboard or afar.
Okay. So you guys produce the equipment, and then in order for the connectivity to take place, I'm going to guess, obviously, that you can connect through Wi-Fi. With Danny's guys will hook up a Wi-Fi network, boats in the marina, it's not a problem. Do you also have the ability to connect through satellite?
Yeah, we all of the above. We work with Danny's company MPI and KVH and VSAT providers to basically have least cost routing so that we can have prioritized cellular or marina Wi-Fi, perhaps if that's available when the boat's at the dock, and then automatically switch over to LTE when the boat's within 4 or 5 miles offshore, depending where they are, and then go over to VSAT. So we have such a compression algorithm such that it's not eating up a lot of data, because data is, as I've seen from this panel this morning, just in some of the discussions, is critical with not being able to go over your allowance and things like that. So, streaming video off in such a way that, for instance, if I'm a camera and I'm looking off on the back deck of a boat and seeing what's going on, I'm only going to send off the stuff that's that's changing from there. So you want to compress the video in such a way that it's only eating a small amount of data when streaming, because a lot of clients will come to us after they put like their home security system camera on the cloud on their boat for the week, and then they blew through 28 gigs in a matter of a few days, and all of a sudden they got a very big bill. So you want to make sure that when streaming video off, that it's being done in such a way that it's not eating up all the boat's bandwidth.
Well, that's interesting. That's something that refers back to a comment that we made in our previous segment with regard to in the old days, if you will, 4 and 5 years ago, in this technology is the old days. But to get to open the bill at the end of the month before it was even paperless, to several $1,000s because your grandson was streaming movies on Netflix or something. Steve, maybe you could speak to that a little bit about maybe one of the big misconceptions is cost and how that has come under control. What sort of programs and packages do companies like KVH offer for there to be connectivity without having to mortgage your primary residence in order to be able to watch an episode of Yellowstone on Netflix?
Sure. So several things that we've done with adding tools to our system to allow the customer, the owner, or the captain to have better control of what data is being used and how it's being used. On top of that, our plans are much more flexible. So we allow people to have plans where they can make changes. And, in the past, you kind of signed up for a plan and that's what you paid month after month, whether you use the data or not. And then if you went over that amount, you had to pay large overages fees. So what we do now is we allow you to be very flexible with our new HTS network, high throughput satellite system. It allows you to pick a plan, and then if you decide you need more data or in the middle of the month, you can raise that plan up. We work with you and adjust that accordingly, and we prorate it based on the data and the time used. But we also have what we call our elite plan, which allows you to pay a weekly or monthly flat rate fee and allows you to stream. So if they do have guests on board, or the owner comes on board and he knows he's going to have his kids or his grandkids on board, he wants to know that at the end of that month he's going to pay one flat rate. So we have the elite plan in the Caribbean and the Mediterranean right now that allows them to use the data, stream movies, play gaming, or do the social media, and know at the end of the month or at the end of that week he's going to pay a specific flat rate fee. And it's great for charter yachts because a lot of the yachts are asking us, they want to be able to bill that back to the charter guests. So now they know, okay, for this week or these days, I'm going to pay this amount. I can rebill that, and even if they want to add to that, they can charge that charter a very specific amount for that data, and they know what they're going to use. Before, it was very difficult because they could only see the bill, a month later. So we make it much more easier with the tools. They can actually go in and see online, and both in applications on their phone or on web portal, where they can actually see the data they've been using. And we're to the point right now where it's about every 8 minutes it updates on their portal, so they know what they've been using. They can see what's going on, and they can catch things that happen. A crew member that's maybe using too much data, things like that. They can catch it much quicker and deal with it then, rather than later on when the bill comes.
Gotcha. Well, and as you mentioned in the earlier segment as well, how critically important it is for the charter industry these days. When someone's going to charter a boat in whatever location it may be, they want to stay connected. They want to either be able to monitor what's going on with business, or they want to be able to stay connected with family, or, grandma wants to see what the baby's doing, or whatever the case may be. Connectivity is critically important. Danny, I'm going to jump over to you. And we talk about systems like this, and the first thing that comes to mind always is a big high dollar system with tons of domes and big expenses and weeks of retrofitting and all that. Tell me about whether we're talking new boat, or let's say a person buys a brokerage boat and they've got let's say they've got a 10-year-old system on board. Is that something that they can just switch the service over, incorporate a new package, and let it go? Or is that something that they're best served to go in and do a fresh up analysis on and see what options there may be for them?
Oh, that's a good question. Excuse me. We do an analysis on what the boat, of what they have, what equipment might be able to be utilized with new equipment. KVH offers packages to update VSATs that they're currently on the boat, depending on what they have and the age. And Steve, you could lay that out better, but whether it be the below decks or adding a piece inside the antenna for a VSAT, and then it can, basically be up to date. As far as Wi-Fi, antennas, even if it's a couple years old, it's probably 2.4, and now everything's going to 5.0. You're going to want to update that. Depending on age of boat, existing cables can be used. We usually recommend running new because you don't know who was behind you. And as far as the work itself and the labor, we do it all the time. It kind of like making sausage. You don't want to see it happening. The boat's pulled apart, but we're very careful. And we lay it out exactly how we met with the customer in the beginning. But as far as cellular and Wi-Fi, if it's a few years old, full new equipment is the way to go.
Okay, and as with most other pieces of technology, the costs are probably coming down in regard to what was available utility-wise in the past, what's available today, and what you're paying for that utility.
Right, equipment is definitely less expensive now, and service. All the way around, things are becoming less and less expensive. Okay. And labor too, because things are running on fewer wires. Some things are communicating wirelessly, so that's saving on time as well on the install.
Well, I think all the way across the board, manufacturers are figuring out better ways to do plug and play, so that it reduces the ability or the opportunity for connectivity problems. If you can simply, plug tab A into slot B and it's pre-programmed and ready to go, it's easier for everybody concerned.
Right.
No doubt about it. So, Brian, we had a question in the chat room, and I don't know if everybody is watching that as well, but the Gost phone app. Tell us a little bit about how easy it is for someone to monitor their boat and what's going on in their boat, whether it's bilges or whether it's security, or as the case may be.
Well, for our first app we started doing was something called the BlackBerry back in 2008, which we had our video app then for streaming off, and we've since had about 3 or 4 generations of streaming video apps. And basically, what we're doing is we're defining events, areas on the boat. So if someone comes into a certain area at certain times a day, or when these push notifications are on or off, they get notifications to their phone app saying, someone just boarded the boat, or, what I tell everyone is when you're looking at this camera, and setting up your motion areas, you really want to focus on fiberglass and teak, and don't focus off the boat because normal boat movement. You want to make sure you're grabbing activity on board. And people are using this as an accountability trail, just to, when you're trying to manage a boat, oftentimes with whether it's a owner operator or whether it's a small crew or large crew, you want accountability of who came on, who did what when. I want to know when Bob the boat washer that got there, or Bill the mechanic, and I want to see when they left and when they got there and when they left. Clients also really want to have a full situational awareness of what's around the boat, where I want a 360 spread around the boat so I can see what's forward, what's aft, what's my port and starboard. And, if something happened while I'm running the boat, I want to be able to go back to that footage and say, this is what happened. And be it an accident on board, we've had clients approach us for after 3 months where someone's trying to sue them because they said that their wake caused an incident when it damaged their boat on the mooring. And lo and behold, the surveillance footage proved otherwise. But yeah, we've seen use cases in a lot of different areas for during hurricanes. Captains that aren't on the boat, they want to have cameras looking down from their tuna towers on their sport fishermen. They want to see how their lines are sitting when they're away from the boat. But lots of different activity caught over the years where people are using cameras and security, of course, to defend the boat from being a theft victim. We'll have nights where 5 or 6 clients down one canal will all get hit, and the electronic security system goes off, scares them off with strobes and sirens and things like that. And then the 6th boat down the canal gets stolen, and it was found down in Jamaica, a month later, for a human drug gone there, money smuggling in and out of countries. I will say that the boat theft has gone down a lot lately, but the marine electronics theft has been a hot spot. And I can guarantee you almost everyone on this call right now, their clients their clients' friends have been victims of marine electronics theft and gear aboard. So that's one thing that we are doing everything we can to try to defend the boat from being an insurance claim, and insurance companies really do like that.
That's a very good point, Brian. As you mentioned, surveillance and monitoring is a critically important component to deterring theft. We're running a little bit short on time, but I do want to jump over to Danny with one quick question. Are the manufacturers, the Raymarines, the Garmins, the different companies that provide electronics to the industry, are they incorporating any tools these days to register products or serial number things that deter theft or would prevent it from being utilized after it was stolen from a boat?
Yes, they're trying very hard to make changes quicker than we all thought it would happen. Some of the manufacturers are having user codes, so the unit's locked if it was stolen if you don't know the code, so the theft isn't really worth it. Some companies are tracking serial numbers. When we install and commission the boat, all the serial numbers are registered, given back to the manufacturer per the owner, and then moving forward, if the product ever comes up, it's flagged. Things like Apt to Captain, you can't use the functionality of it unless you're the owner. You can't change it without either contacting the previous owner or going to Garmin, and it goes into a waiting period as they check it out and investigate. They're changing daily, trying to keep up with that, because it is a big problem, especially here in Fort Lauderdale. They're doing a good job so far. It's hard as far as they don't have internet and cameras built in, but when it's all put together as a package, Gost can watch it, be alerted when it's happening, and then once they actually do get the equipment, they're not able to use it with new equipment.
Well, that's amazing. Maybe we don't think about it, but virtually everything we have is connected these days. You can't hardly buy a toaster or a coffee grinder that doesn't have a chip in it that speaks back to the internet when the filter needs to be changed or the heating elements drawn too much power, as the case may be. So for marine electronics, it would only make sense that they'd be able to develop technologies that would allow only the primary user or the purchaser to utilize it, and it couldn't be transferred to something else without some sort of permissions in that regard. Gentlemen, we've run out of time. I really do appreciate your time, your expertise, and your contribution to this panel. Just so the audience knows, the ransom Garmin is dealing now. We have a guest asking about the ransom that Garmin's dealing with. I think that's a whole new segment. Talk to the Secret Service and the FBI about that one. But guys, thanks again very much for your contribution here on your expertise and knowledge. I would recommend anybody in the audience who wants to know more about KVH to get with Steve, more about Gost and monitoring systems to get with Brian, and the installation or consulting on any of that with Danny. MPI, Gost, and KVH, thank you guys so much for your contribution this morning. You've given us an interesting bunch of stuff to talk about, think about, and if you can't find those guys on the internet, check with the IYBA office. We can put you together. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, thank you.
Our pleasure. All right, folks, we're going to wrap it up this morning. Thank you very much to the audience for attending. We had a great sized audience this morning. Hopefully we brought some information to you that was interesting and informative. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. We'll have a variety of segments tomorrow. We're going to mix it up a little bit differently than we've done here on the first 2 days. We'll kick off the day with AME Solutions and Rich Marriage. And Heather's had all the fun this week, so I think I'm going to get out in the field with her tomorrow. We'll look forward to seeing you all back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to our sponsors, Robert Allen Law, Pantropic Caterpillar, Northern Lights Technical, Seakeeper, Karen Lynn, Quantum Stabilizers, AME Solutions, Apollo Lighting, Underwater Lighting, JV Connectivity, and LMC. Thanks from IYBA. We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great day. Go sell something, will you?
Yacht Engineering Week has been brought to you by Robert Allen Law, Pantropic Power CAT, MPI Professionals, KVH, Northern Lights, Seakeeper, Quantum, AMA Solutions, Karen Lynn Interior Design, Apollo Lighting, Underwater Lights Limited. Our connection has been provided by JV Connectivity, and our timekeepers have been Lauderdale Marine Center.
Do you want to generate leads? Is free your favorite price? Then you need to check out IYBA.pro. IYBA.pro is your industry-owned platform for all listings and marketing. Create robust yacht sales and charter profiles, elegant marketing material, have access to all your exclusive data, and enjoy premium search engine optimization by signing up with us. For more information on how to join IYBA.pro, call the IYBA headquarters or email me at casey@iyba.org.
Maritime arbitration has been around for hundreds of years. Now we have a new forum to solve our disputes. The IYBA has created the International Yacht Arbitration Council to solve our disagreements. We have experienced maritime attorneys and yacht brokers to serve on our panels, people who know the law, who know boats, and who know the yacht business. IYAC arbitration can handle yacht claims, contract, purchase, and commission disputes privately, quickly, and less costly than going to court. Sometimes disputes happen, and when they do, the IYAC is here to help you solve them.
Hi, I'm Bob Saxon. I'm president of EBA, the International Yacht Brokers Association. What is EBA? Our mission statement suggests our worthy objective to be promoting professionalism and ethics amongst our members. But EBA is more than that. The work and the energies of our board of directors and our support committees is directed toward bettering the business environment within our constituency by way of education, networking, webinars, seminars, political engagement, and many other activities for the greater benefit of our membership. Our reach is impressive, with a global membership of over 1,600 strong, marking EBA as the largest and most influential professional association of yacht brokers and affiliates. If not a current member, I encourage your participation. If already an active EBA member, learn how you can serve in a board support capacity by becoming a committee member. I asked earlier, what is EBA? And in the final analysis, EBA is you, EBA is your cause. And I know that you're going to enjoy this week's EBA Yacht Engineering Webinar Week.